Good afternoon, everyone. Is this on? Thank you. I know people are still getting food, and feel free to do that. Just do it quietly, because we're going to go ahead and get our program started. And we're going to ask the county executive, Daniel C. McCoy, if he would come and give our opening remarks this afternoon. You know what? While he's doing that, let me introduce myself. I'm Carolyn McLaughlin, Dr. Carolyn McLaughlin, and I'm a county legislator representing the First District, and I also chair the Black Legislative Caucus, which is a real honor for me to do. And so we just wanted to welcome you here this afternoon, and now you will hear from our county executive.
Didn't know they let you back in the building. Surprised you found your way after you quit and went to Hudson Valley. Just saying. You had it. Is it glad to be back? All right, I'm just checking because I thought you had a good boss and then you went across the river. Maybe you like Steve McLaughlin. Just saying. But hey, I know, right? I do want to thank Joanne Cunningham, the chair of the legislature, for her leadership. For Wanda Willingham, the deputy chair, and Dr. McLaughlin, leadership, not just in the city of Albany as a councilwoman and president of the Common Council, and then decided, hey, I'm not going to sit here and sit around and be retired, goes back and gets her doctorate degree, and becomes county legislature. So thank you for all your wisdom, your hard work over the years. Yes, Carolyn. And now the chair of the Black Caucus. So thank you. You take over for Bill Clay, who did extraordinary things, and Bill was a colleague when I was in the Ledge. But Black History Month is such an important part of the year, and always a really proud time of the year when we do this. And I do want to thank them for putting this together and making me part of it, and to the county legislators that were here, and this panelists, distinguished panelists. And we're finally getting it right. We're like trying to hit every generation, and I think over the years it was always like, don't apply if you're not over or under 90. And nothing wrong with that, but we really needed to get different points of view of how people see the world. And I always say that. I am a big fan of Dr. King, and I got to give this speech at this Baptist church, which I know I've sinned in life. I'm never going back to Baptist. It was like 4 hours, and I couldn't leave. I tried leaving. They had me up front, and I'm like, when's this get over? Like Catholic Mass, 45 minutes. I know I'm in and out, all right? I know when I was like, wow, this is really going on. And it was moving, but it was time for me to move and keep going. But, really, I always said, like, what would Dr. King say? And I wouldn't want to think what Dr. King would say, like, how far have we come? Did we go back? Have we gone forward? But his legacy lives on in different ways. And, to Troy, to Jasmine, to Shanna, to Cricket, if I got that right, to everyone involved here and the panelists, thank you for doing this. Thank you for the legislature for putting this together. But I just want to hit a note, working with the Albany County Legislature, we have done our equity agenda. We continue to improve on that. We've done things, I took it from King County, Seattle. I read it. I met the county executive out there, went out and met him, and we started working on it. And the late, great Dr. Green was part of it. And Dr. Green was someone I always admired growing up, and I used to say to her when she was alive, it's not so much in front of her until I got a little braver over the years, but I used to go, we used to say how crazy you were. We're like, Dr. Green's out of her mind. She doesn't know what she's talking about. You know what? She knew 30 years before anyone else did, and she was well ahead of her time. So I bring her on this agenda with us, saying, hey, she's going to get it right. We're going to get this right. She's helping us write it. And she still wrote against us after helping us. It wasn't enough. I go, that's Dr. Green I know and love, man. But again, it's good. And then working with the MVP Healthcare, we gave $250,000 to the charter school for Sage College, but the charter school on Hackett Ave, and I can't think of the name of it right now. Yes, thank you. The Leadership Academy, to give an opportunity for students that are in poor neighborhoods to get their RN and to help them get to the next level. So as we continue to reach out into the community and do different things, this is such an important topic. And I do have a proclamation. I could go on forever, obviously, but I don't want to. This isn't about me. This is about our history. And I always say this, you got to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you got to be willing to have the uncomfortable conversations to not repeat history, because we do. I love this country, and I say this, it's the best country in the world, but we continue to do the same mistakes over because we move on or want to rewrite history and say it a different way. It doesn't work that way, folks. You know, you got to take the good with the bad and the ugly and say, we've learned, we've grown, and we still got to let people know how far we've come, but not far enough, right? But you have to let them know where it was before and why people feel they do, because I don't know about you, my kids being, the generation they're at, they don't see a lot of it, because if you notice younger kids, they're just like hang out, and they're like, the parents look at it a different way, and they're like, what are you talking about? But that's a disservice to them too, because they don't understand the struggles. They don't understand what, people had to go through back in them days. And to me, when I look at my kids, and I'm like, yeah, but that's great, you feel that way, but you should understand why it was like that and how it is now, to not forget. And that's what I get afraid of repeating history. So I do want to not take up any more time. I do have a proclamation for our chairwoman and for Dr. McLaughlin, if you want to come up here and say thank you. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like I'm up. I'm Joanne Cunningham. I am the chair of the Albany County Legislature. I want to welcome you and thank you so much for being here. I see a couple of our legislators in the audience, in addition to our Legislative Black Caucus chairwoman, Carolyn McLaughlin. We have Matt Miller, who's from the town of Bethlehem, Susan LaRilliard, who is from the town of Colony. I don't know that I see anyone else. There'll be, I'm sure, others will be coming in shortly. Oh, I'm sorry, Mert, you're right in front of me. Mert Simpson, right in front of me. So, Mert also serves as the vice chair of one of our important committees, our environmental committee, and appreciate his leadership on environmental justice in particular. So thank you, and thanks, Matt, for pointing that out. Can't see the person right in front of you. So just a couple of thoughts. I looked at this panel and I thought, wow, what a completely blockbuster topic and panel today. I'm thrilled to have such tremendous leadership here represented. What a great topic, the importance of labor in the Black community. I'm really looking forward to this discussion and all of your insights and greatly appreciate it. The staff gave me some nice comments, and I'm not going to say them because I'll tell you, I'm on fire, and I hope everyone in this room is on fire. I was really glad to see that the Chief Diversity Officer, Ainsley Thomas, is our moderator. What a time to be the Chief Diversity Officer at any organization in America. Thank you. We are going to channel all of your expertise, all of your energy, all of your thought leadership. Now is the time in America today to stand up really tall and say, you know what, Black History Month matters a hell of a lot in Albany County and in the state of New York. We can say that for sure. Black Lives Matter in Albany County and always will, also in the state of New York. Diversity, equity, inclusion matters in Albany County and in the state of New York. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty pissed off. What we are seeing in how many short days that we're here is nothing short of a horror show, a travesty, mind-boggling, just shameful. All the words that don't adequately describe where we are today in the United States. It is truly, truly shameful. And I hope that everyone is not shying away from the news. I don't know about you, but I did go through a little patch right after the election where I was like, oh no, I'm not going to engage. But I'm over that now. We've got to engage. We've got to read. We've got to share. We've got to amplify. We've got to shout. We've got to keep saying, no, no, no. This is not who we are. This is not our values, and our values matter. So I just want to say that, and I hope everyone in this room appreciates the inflection point we are at, and that we can't get fatigued. We can't just shy away. We can't turn away from this. We have to stand up and say, you know what? Diversity makes us stronger, and we know that. We've always known that. And I am proud to be part of Albany County. The leadership that we have with Dan McCoy is exceptional. He never shies down from a fight. I don't know if he left, but he is a fighter. The legislature, we are fighters. We've got Carolyn at the helm. We've got my deputy chair, Wanda Willingham. Man, she's a fighter. She keeps me on my toes. We've got so many resources and so many of us in this room and beyond that will not keep our mouths shut. And we will keep preaching, and we will keep saying, you know what, this is not our values, and this what we're seeing happening can't go unchecked. So I am delighted that we have this occasion to get all riled up. I love this panel. I just want to say Jasmine is like the happiest headshot I've ever seen in my life. I love it. I appreciate all of you so much. I can't wait to learn from you. Keep doing what you're doing. Let us know how we can help in the legislature anytime, any place, anywhere. We are here to serve, and appreciate so much this celebration of Black History Month. Thank you.
I was looking around for Deputy Chair Wanda Willingham. I don't see her, so we will just move forward. I feel like I can give the benediction, and we can just go on home now, because Danny opened up the service, telling us how long he was in church. Joanne just gave a sermon, and now pass the plate. That's the next thing going on right now. But that's good that we have that kind of energy in the room, and hopefully I know what we're going to receive from this awesome panel is going to be exciting. I want to thank the county executive for his kind words and just for being here. Busy man, but took the time to come and greet us today, and I appreciate that. I also want to acknowledge Mert Simpson. He is the co-chair of the Legislative Black Caucus, and he represents the second district in the legislature. And Mert is someone who will keep you on your toes, emails all times of night. Did you get my email? No, he sent it at 3 a.m. No, I didn't get it yet. But he's full of information, and I don't care what the topic is, but particularly a topic such as this today. He's very concerned about that as well. So we're just honored to welcome you all today, African Americans and labor. I believe if anybody's got a job, you're a part of African Americans in labor. You are a part of the movement that has to continue to make sure that our country moves forward, that our county moves forward, and our cities move forward. So we're fighting for justice, equity, and opportunity, first and foremost, opportunity. So we're privileged to have this distinguished panel to help us learn a little more about this. They're not people who just carry a title. They do the work. I know I've witnessed them doing the work, and that's what you want. And take the time, after you hear them, take the time to talk to them yourself one-on-one. So let me begin by introducing our moderator, which will be Ainsley A. Thomas, the Chief Diversity Officer at Hudson Valley Community College, and he's a leader and advocate, and he's going to guide our conversation today. But we trained him well here at Albany County. And joining Ainsley on our panelists, Cricket Thomas Odell. She is a woman who I've seen work very hard to make sure that you are informed about what opportunities are taking place right in our neighborhood, but not just here, but around the state, as the director of the statewide pre-apprentice program and community engagement, empowering the next generation to succeed and thrive in the workforce. Does not do any good just for me to be doing okay. I got to make sure that those that are coming behind me are also going to be okay and move our community forward, and that's what Cricket does. And one of those people that she's looking out for is sitting right next to her, Troy Jackson. He's a student at the University of Albany, and he represents the energy and the creativity and the ambition that we're looking for in our future. So we need that perspective at this table. And don't you ever let anybody take your voice for granted. Next on our panel is the happiest photo person in the world, Jasmine Higgins. She is COO of GLS, an apartment, it's a trailblazer. She really is. I mean, she started out doing this thing, and now she's doing this. Wherever you need her skill set, she's there. And I think if you want to get somebody out in the community who knows the pulse of the community and will move in the right direction, and in this particular area, I know with the work that she's doing with her company that she's going to make sure that there is fair opportunity for everyone in this labor movement. So I'm looking forward to hearing from her as well. And last but certainly not least, someone who has been involved in the labor movement for decades, Shana Davis. She represents the Black Trade Unionists, and she ensures that all workers' rights remain at the forefront. This is a woman who knows this arena, who knows this place, knows the good, bad, and the ugly, and will be right there to fight for all workers. And I know that that's her history, but she's particularly committed to the BIPOC community, and I am just really excited that she's here and honored that she is here with us today. So welcome, Shana. And we got a lot of insight, a lot of expertise at this table, so I'm going to move along because I know you want to hear from them, and we thank them for all being here. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to kick things off with an icebreaker question for each one of them. And then Ainsley's going to take over after that. But the icebreaker question, it's like, all right, you get 2 minutes? 3 minutes. They got it all time stamped, so you get 3 minutes to answer this question. And there's a different question for each one of you. Oh. that ought to make it a little better. Okay, Ainsley, as Chief Diversity Officer at Hudson Valley Community College, how do you think African American labor movements have shaped and continue to influence contemporary diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives?
Well, you have to look at DEI. What does it mean? Diversity is recognizing that each one of us is different, and through this uniqueness, we learn to respect and value each other's differences, right? Equity is fair access to opportunity. Inclusion is making folks feel like they're welcomed, right? So when it comes to Black labor unions being formed, why did they form? Because of economic inequities. They were receiving jobs that were low-paying jobs. Some of these jobs were dangerous jobs that other folks in the union did not want to do, right? They were also, for those who wanted to advocate for themselves, they were threatened by their employers either with violence or even violence from their colleagues that were part of the union as well. So Black labor unions were formed to address equity and to be recognized as individuals, not only as individuals, but actually be recognized as human beings. They wanted to be seen as, they wanted the humanitarian aspect of being a human to be considered. I'm not just here as an employer. Recognize me for my dignity, the fact that I want to take care of my family, the fact that I want to be able to contribute to my community. Martin Luther King said in his Poor People's Campaign that economic injustice does not allow for folks of color to really achieve the American dream. And so as a result, black labor unions were formed to actually bring about this economic justice.
Thank you. Cricket, and your question is, as someone deeply involved in creating pathways for underrepresented populations in unionized construction, what strategies have you found most effective in increasing diversity in these fields?
That has been, for me, a labor of love for the past 3 years. And just as a background, when I joined Workforce Development Institute, WDI, it was strictly to be the regional director for the Capital District. And then fast forward to us recognizing that when it comes to the unionized construction trades and workforce development, there wasn't anyone who was there speaking for women, people of color, those who are justice involved, for veterans, to be able to provide them with those opportunities. And so for me, I look at having the opportunity to get to them where they are. Meeting the folks where they are means going to community-based organizations and working directly with those folks who are looking to bring into this administration of workforce development. And so I have been, and I say it's a blessing, working in the pre-apprenticeship program throughout New York State and hoping to make sure that I can go into the communities, work with the folks who are working with these individuals, like I said, women, people of color, justice involved, the veterans, and hope them have the hope that I have seeing the future. I know when I came through high school, I was never exposed to the trades, if you will. I was put on that college track. Oh, here's a smart little black girl. Let's put her to college. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with college. I went to college. My husband went. We sent our daughter. But the reality is that there are other opportunities for people to be successful that aren't just college-based. So again, I'm not knocking college, but not everybody needs to go to college to be successful. There are opportunities that are out there, especially in the trades, whereby you can get a starting salary of $25 an hour. You get benefits, you get security, you get training, and you don't incur a debt. Because thanks be to God, and my husband and I were able to stop writing that parent loan check because we got forgiven last year, but that's a huge debt. My daughter's still paying off her student loans, but, and one small little story right here, like I said, we sent her to college because we were told that that's the only way you can be successful. So we sent her to a 5-year private school, 5-year mandatory because they have a mandatory co-op, and went through that. Comes back home. I'm working now in the labor unions. I'm learning about what's involved in labor, et cetera. Unbeknownst to her father and I, she went and she joined the labor union. So yeah, I'm glad that she's now doing something she's happy with, but man, had she had been exposed to that earlier on, which is what I'm trying to do, to expose folks earlier on, we would save us a whole lot of money.
Thank you for that personal testimony. At this time, we're going to go to Troy and ask him, and you know, as a young leader pursuing a career in finance, what challenges do you think African Americans face in breaking into the financial sector, and what steps can be taken to create a more inclusive environment in that area?
Yes, so I'll kind of start off, I guess, with my journey and pathway. I'm still maneuvering through learning more about the financial sector. I think information plays a lot of parts in knowing like where you want to go in finances, specifically for African Americans. There's a lack of knowledge in that industry. Is not as diverse as other industries. So one thing that I was happy to be a part of was to have the ability to be around other people that look like me in those fields, because there are African Americans in those industries, and the advice that I've gotten from them was very impactful to me, and they really helped guide me because they understood where I was coming from and where I wanted to go, and they were able to be an advocate for me. And I also was able to develop advocates that are outside of my race as well, and that has also been impactful for me, learning what certificates should I get, what books should I read, or what company should I be looking at. And so the the access of information is one of the main parts to get over some of those challenges and creating advocates in those industries. And to help that is really to embrace that even more and to have people in those fields really wanting to do more and being a part of organizations that reach out to teach students more. As a student leader at the campus at UAlbany, I run into a lot of students who, look for opportunities after college and kind of struggle. And it's good to do college, like you said earlier, but a lot of students just focus on, getting a good GPA, very high GPA, and all along that regard don't really get experience. And it was just the lack of information they had of you got to do internships, you have to network and meet others. And so with that information piece and having advocates, that will really help in all facets, but specifically in finance, it will help to have those advocates reaching down to the community and giving information and opportunities.
I want you to, I don't know if you've done this before, but the New York State retirement system, which is right next door, and the New York State Teachers Retirement System, which is over in Corporate Woods. I don't know if you've had any contact with them in that area. These are two of the most successfully funded retirement systems in the country, and you would do well to make some contacts there. I would love to introduce you to the director at the Teachers Retirement System, because I think that you are the ideal candidate for a place like that. So. Next, we're going to hear from Jasmine, and her question is, how has your family's history of activism and legal advocacy influenced your approach to labor and equity in Albany?
So for background, for those of you who don't know, I come and I stand on the shoulders of my great-great-grandmother, Ida Yarbrough, the namesake of the Ida Yarbrough Affordable Housing Complex in Arbor Hill. Her son, John Williams Jennings, one of the first black attorneys. My grandmother, Patricia Higgins, the first head of the Senate EEO office for New York State. And then my father, who was an attorney who worked very hard to ensure that black people were represented in the labor and employment field of the legal profession. So their history, their legacy, their work is everything to me and has informed how I operate in this world, where I try and bring people forth with me, share resources, and always take every step I can to accept any opportunity presented to me. I think that is the sole purpose for my family's move here from the South during the Great Migration, is for a chance at opportunity, economic self-reliance, parity, and a collective and coalition building activity so that we might all move forward together. It's really informed everything I've done from my work and my time with the City of Albany, working in the mayor's office, trying to make sure that we have housing that supports our people who are in a position, in a worse off financial and economic position, right? That there's opportunity for people who are of all ages, right? People like Troy and myself, people who are seniors, anyone really, to have the resources and the support they need to survive and thrive, really. And I think that's the primary focus, and what my family has taught me is we're not just looking to live, we're looking to thrive. And we have to do that as a team and as a unit. So whenever you are out, you have to build a network with people, like Troy said, to know people and to build and share ideas and similar ideals through collective action. And that is really what's informed me in my journey.
With that kind of history that she outlined, she has no choice but to do what she's doing. So, I understand that. I completely do. And our final question, for just the icebreaker question, goes to Shanna Davis. And it is, as a leader of labor unions and the Black Trade Unionist Organization, how do you ensure that the voices of African Americans are amplified in negotiations and policy changes?
So that is a very interesting question. So oftentimes when we sit in rooms and we look like me, sometimes you have to repeat yourself in order to be heard. it's interesting that you asked that question. Before I became the president for Region 4 for CSEA, as a CSEA member, which I still am a CSEA member, but as a member, I sat on 3 state negotiating teams. And sitting on those teams, I learned things that you don't learn as an activist. I learned things that you don't learn as a leader. You have an opportunity because you sit in that room and it's not about you. It's about your brothers and sisters and everybody that contract impacts. And so when you sit there, you can't think about you. You have to think about everyone. And everyone includes, yes, me as a black leader, but not just black members, but all members. But you have to also make sure that the choices that are made impacts you and your black members, right? And so it's interesting. It's hard work, but you can't stop talking. You have to be relentless, and you have to speak up. And it's always know that they can't move until they hear every voice, and make sure that your voice is heard.
Oh, I like that. I like that. And I imagine sometimes that can be very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable.
But you have to deal with it as the leader because people are counting on you because they sent you in the room to be their voice. So we need to pray for you. Thank you all so much. Those were just my icebreaker questions. And before I bring up Ainsley to move us forward, I'm going to acknowledge our Deputy Chair of the Legislature, Wanda Willingham, and she's going to come and give remarks, and then you'll go up right after her.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's really great to see everybody here today. This is a special day for me, and it's also a special occasion. The Black Legislative Caucus will be celebrating our seventh anniversary this year. Okay. And so I'm excited to hear what our moderator, Ainsley Thomas, and each of our panelists, have to say today. I've had an opportunity to, hear each one of them, especially I think you're the youngest one on the panel right here. And so, as many of you have heard, I'm especially interested in hearing from our younger generation. I know what I have experienced and which direction I believe we should go in. But I'm always surprised by the innovative and outside-the-box ideas that young people do bring to these conversations. Not that I still don't have something to say, but anyway. However, when it comes to today's topic, African Americans and labor, I do want to take a moment for us to all reflect that this goes much further back than only a few decades or even centuries. The first enslaved person was brought to Fort Orange, which became Albany, in 1626. Only 2 years after this area was first settled, and almost exactly 400 years ago. So many people think of the South when they think of this, but there were 3,722 enslaved people in Albany County in 1790. Each and every one of them was part of the labor force that built this city, this state, and this country. They worked on the Hudson River waterfront. They were barbers, blacksmiths, shoemakers, typesetters, horse grooms, chimney and street sweepers, and they drove the carts that kept goods and people moving through this capital city. That labor, unpaid and often brutal, gave this country the start it needed to become the international superpower that it is today. Great things grow from fragile and sometimes very painful beginnings. Through the 1800s and 1900s, Albany became home to black schoolmasters, lawyers, judges, business owners, and politicians who labored tirelessly for racial and social justice. Now here, 25 years into the 2000s, my family has been part of the labor for decades. So I am proud to say that we are part of that labor too. I'm honored to be with you and share this with you. But I also must remind you that sometimes, in spite of our best efforts, there are still decisions made by the city, the county, and state leaders that can undermine marginalized communities, such as the South End of Albany, just a few blocks from where we are sitting today, to use that as one example. So I think we as a legislature are doing the work to fix some of those past mistakes by addressing housing, substance abuse, just to name two of the many, but doing any work without the guidance of experience can be wasteful. So that is why I want to share these stories with you, stories and memories that are important because they inform us about where we have come from and help us guide us on where we are going. My parents, I'm sure that my sister, she didn't say it, were part of that great migration from the South. As a matter of fact, I was born in the South, in a house, and the last one to be born in the South. I'm sure she shared with you those trips that we had to make annually back to Mississippi using the Green Book, and we know all about it because we rode in that long station wagon and took that long ride back to Mississippi, where to this day, I can say, my siblings and I, we all own our individual acres of land still in Mississippi. So, with that little bit of history, I am looking forward to hear from everyone here on where they would like us to go in the future, too.
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to make this organic, but I'm going to start off with having Cricket answer the first question. The question is, how have African Americans historically shaped the labor movement in America, and what lessons can we draw from their struggles and successes today?
Thank you for that question, Ainsley. African Americans have significantly shaped the American labor movement by actively participating in strikes and organizing unions despite facing systemic discrimination, and they are often the ones who are leading against racial inequality within workplaces and paving that way for us. Some examples of that would be, for instance, the Memphis sanitation workers strike. Remember that back in 1968, whereby we had predominantly black garbage workers who went on strike because they were protesting poor working conditions, the lack of respect, low wages. That's one. You think about the Moton school strike. This happened in Virginia. It was a high school whereby the students walked out protesting the fact that they had inferior conditions in their high school. And that was the beginning of a desegregation moment that we had for us. I also think of A. Philip Randolph and the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. When you think about this prominent African American who successfully organized and led the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters to this union, those are examples of why African Americans have been the ones who have shaped this labor. And I'm going to save CBTU for my sister at the end, the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists, which I'm also a member of, because that is a prominent voice when it comes to African Americans and how we have started that. But the second part of your question there, what lessons can we learn from that? I think we've heard about that already. When it comes to understanding the intersectionality between racial injustice and economic inequality, that is crucial. We have to understand that those systemic barriers that are there racially, mostly affect white, marginalized people, have an impact on us economically, all of us economically. So those two are connected. Also, building diverse coalitions. It is very important for us to make sure that we have that meaningful change occur across all of the color lines, because if we don't move together, then we're going to continue to move separately. And addressing those systemic racism within unions, because I will be the first one to tell you that within some of our labor unions, especially within the unionized construction unions, there's still racism in full effect. We have to address that. It's no more the good old boys and them running it, because now we're bringing women into it. We're bringing other folks into it, LGBTQ. That has to be addressed. And then lastly, focusing on worker empowerment. our folks need to understand, especially marginalized folks, that their voice is important. They need to participate in these union activities. Leadership positions are key, and they are there to make their voices heard.
Thank you. Shauna,
Yes.
should I read it again?
So you want me to talk a little bit about CBTU?
Yes.
So CBTU is the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists. Was founded in 1972. William Bill Lucy and 3 other brothers worked diligently to create this organization because blacks were not recognized in leadership roles in the labor unions. William Bill Lucy was part of the Memphis sanitation strike. He was there during that time. He was an AFSCME council person, and he lived his life for labor. He lived his life, and his legacy was all labor. He diligently worked to create an organization that is now international, representing trade union members all across the United States and abroad. CBTU helped black leaders understand that you don't just have to be a union member. You can be a leader in that union. You can be a part of a negotiating team. I was only a part of that negotiating team because of CBTU. I didn't become active in CSEA until after I became a CBTU member because I didn't realize that I could do that, right? Like the door wasn't that open for me. It was open to sign my membership card. It was open for my membership dues, but it wasn't open for me to become a part, to be active, and to play a bigger role in that. And we have that same issue today. I think we're not openly having conversations. We're selective on who we think should be a leader in the organization. Oh, who we think should join the club, right? It's not a club. This is your livelihood. Everything is about your paycheck. It's about your retirement. It's about your community. Labor is about all of that. It's not just about a union. And William Bill Lucy worked hard to make sure that we knew that.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, maybe I'll direct this at Jasmine. How does the intersection of race and gender impact the labor experiences of African American women, and what strategies can support their advancement in the workforce?
So the intersection of race and gender has the effect of what's called misogynoir, right? Women experience a certain level of disenfranchisement, but then the added intersection of race and color has certain other negative barriers and implications, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in government, public policy, the trades, or the unions, as we've heard from both Cricket and from Sean. There are certain other barriers, right? So opportunity, again, is one of those things that you have to focus on. When it's presented to you, you have to accept it. And then you have to build with other people. Without others, we are not going to be able to make these strides that are necessary to see the level of participation from women and black women in these same fields that are either male-dominated or white male-dominated or white woman-dominated. You have to challenge the traditional ideals of labor or what a job is for a woman or what job a woman can have. So oftentimes women are relegated to administrative or clerical roles as opposed to positions or leadership roles, policy-making decisions, all these types of roles that women are particularly adept at because of what they do in their personal life and in their work life. We're sitting here making homes, but also because we have that leadership capability. We're raising the next generation of our family and informing them about what it takes to make sure that you can see new levels, new heights, and new opportunities in ways that have not previously been accepted. So, for example, my great-grandmother, when she moved here, she was a maid for a Jewish family on the block that I currently live on. Without her activism, without her involvement, that was not necessarily allowed because she was banned from working in certain positions, I would not be able to hold leadership positions. I wouldn't be able to have worked for the city of Albany, where prior to the current leadership, there were not very many women who held department head roles or commissioner roles. There were not many people who even looked like me when I started there. So without this constant relentlessness, this constant pursuit of more and better, we will be forced to face the same challenges as our ancestors. So in policy, that means that we have to accept that policy is not race neutral. You have to be very intentional about crafting it, and that it impacts everyone's lives. Without government's involvement and interference, we will see many of the same ills that have happened in the 50s and 60s. For a lot of people, things have not seemed or changed markedly. We still have discrimination in employment and housing and so on and so forth. So policy is the vehicle to allow for greater change, greater opportunity, and greater even ambition. So I encourage everyone to remain ambitious, to seek out policy roles, to understand what's happening in your community, and if you're close to the issue, you're also close to the solution.
Great. Thank you, Jasmine. Does anyone else want to add anything to what Jasmine contributed? It's okay if you don't. All right. Well said, Jasmine. This is for anyone. What role does education play in addressing the gaps in labor equity? And how can we create more inclusive educational pipelines for African Americans?
One thing that we are doing right now, which I'm really excited about, is that through the Department of Labor and in conjunction with the New York State Building Trades Council, which is I wear a hat for that, is that we are part of what's called the Teacher Ambassador Program. And that Teacher Ambassador Program is open to all teachers, school counselors, librarians, et cetera, grades 6 through 12, who are getting a free course during the summer, when the months where they're off, learning about other options that are available for students. And so once they learn about these other options and they take this knowledge where we come in and take them out to some of the actual training centers that we have within the building trade. So I'm excited that we're finally understanding, as I said before, that it's not all about only going to college. We're learning that there are other options for students to be successful. So again, Teacher Ambassador Program on the New York State Department of Labor website, that for education to me is important because education needs to be more broader. It's not just about, there's a quote from an educator who says, used to be only the steak was going to college, and then you would get some hamburger if you went on to a trade or whatever. Now we're looking at, being a full meal, whereby you can get steak, potatoes, everything, all involved in what you'll hear CTE, Career Technical Education Programming. And just, if you didn't know this, I'll share with you also, the New York State requirements for graduation are going to change. And they're going to include now a CTE, Career Technical Education credit that's going to be required for all of our students to graduate.
Does anyone else want to add to that? What about how can we inform young folks about what opportunities there are out there? Because a lot of them enter college and they might come in as a business major and it's a safe major for them, but when they're finished with after 2 years, they don't want to do that. And then they get exposed to like maybe the trades and realize that pays so much more. How can we inform our young folks about the employment opportunities that are out there based on market trends?
So what I would say to that is it really boils down. I love how the audience is really diverse, and you most likely know a young person or someone in college, and I think conversation is a big part of that, because in that phase of college, you're really still exploring what you want to do, and so you're really open to ideas. And so don't hesitate to young people in your lives, either if they're in high school or younger or college, just start having those conversations just a little bit further than, what do you want to do? Or just really trying to guide them through those opportunities, because the workforce is always changing, like in the tech field and a lot of stuff like that. So I know it's really impactful to have those conversations and really broaden the scope, like you said, with trades and stuff like that. There's a lot of information that a lot of students don't know, and I run into that a lot with other students as well, just having to change their majors. Like, I thought I wanted to do this with my life, and even for myself, coming into college thinking I want to do this thing, and then I got an internship and I said, well, I like this more. And so also encouraging them to get actual experience during college, so they're not, spending 4 years maybe doing accounting, then they get into accounting field and like, I hate it. And so I had a mentor that also, spoke with me about that and encouraged me to go out and try those different fields and try and take opportunities, as Jasmine, you were saying earlier, just take on opportunities that they have. But I think having a conversation with the young people in your lives and trying to expose them to other opportunities and ways they can be active is really helpful.
Thank you, Troy. Also, another website that you can use is the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics to see what the employment trends are in that area that you're located as well. Okay. In what ways can mentorship and community involvement inspire the next generation of African Americans to pursue careers in historically exclusive industries?
Go ahead.
Mentorship is extremely important, and I don't think we have enough at all. We're missing out, and our young people are missing out. The ability to come together and share the ideals brings forth what the future needs, right? It's our information with their information to go forward to help assist them get to what they got to go to keep the progression moving. The building trade is a selfish trade. I don't care. You can go back and tell them I said it.
We are.
We're still in a place where we can't reach who we need to reach. And some of those folks are aging out. They need to go. But they won't let go and let these babies come in. And it's very difficult to have that conversation with these people that we gotta let them in. You can't stay here forever. Tomorrow's not promised to nobody. We have to find a way to infiltrate this selfish place. And you are doing a good job, but we need to help you.
Thank you.
Because you shouldn't be doing it by yourself, right? And so we have work to do, but we can't do it without the young people.
Exactly.
I can't say to him, I think you should do it this way. I can say, I think this is a good idea, and you could say, well, yeah, I like that, but it won't work this way for me. And I had to learn that the hard way. I got a granddaughter who's a senior in college this year, and I tried to tell her 5 times, that's not right. And until she said, Nana, I'm not you, I was like, oh, I didn't get it, right? So we have to learn how to listen. But so in order for us to mentor, we're being mentored at the same time. It's not one way, it's 2 ways. The mentorship is both ways. They're mentoring us and we're mentoring them, and there's not enough. And we got to do more.
But therein lies a challenge, though, because to your point, when you have that mindset, nothing gets the young folks, of wanting to do it their own way, and then we're trying to bring in those who've had experience. I need my mentors. I need my building and construction trades folks who've been through this harshness of dealing with the racism and the sexism and all the things that happen on a work site, to be able to talk to the young people and have them receive that.
Right.
And not, well, that's what was happening when y'all were there. No, it's still happening now. And so that's where we're working with an organization we just partnered with, CEO, Center for Employment Opportunities, who works with the Justice Involved. We are going to have folks who have been seasoned, if you will, working with our younger folks in the point of when they're transporting them back and forth to the work site. So when you're in that van and we're being driven there, having those conversations. So what happened at the work site today? Oh, how did you handle that? What did you say to the person? What did you say to the foreman? How did you, deal with the person, who told you to go do whatever that you didn't think was cool? And have those conversations, because without that mentorship, those conversations happening, we're going to keep doing the same old thing. And what happens there? You get the same old results.
Shauna, you mentioned earlier that it's a selfish industry. Some of the folks there will not retire and allow for younger folks to get an opportunity. Do you think there are still barriers there to have marginalized groups be a part of the union still?
I think there's barriers in every industry, right? No matter what part of labor. It's like I'm talking about, so I'm representing labor. In labor, there's barriers. In every area of labor, there's barriers, but we have to continue to push through those. The barriers aren't going to stop, right? Are barriers a bad thing? No, right? We learn from them. What makes it bad is when we say, up, that barrier's there, so I can't, like, you know what I mean? I can't go this way, so let me go this way. I can't go this way, let me go this way. We can't stop. The barrier's there. What are we learning from that barrier? Right? We learned we couldn't go this way, so we had to try this way. And maybe this way work. So there are barriers. There's always going to be barriers, and that's okay. What's not okay is that we stop pushing the barrier. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep fighting. Life is ever learning, right? And so barriers are ever teaching. And we're going to always learn how to push through that next barrier.
I love seeing that. I love seeing that. Because actually, for me, when I go into these rooms where it's usually just me and a whole sea full of, and no offense, MPS, male pale stale, looking back at me, it's like, okay, all right, how am I going to get you to understand where I'm coming from? How am I going to get you to recognize that, okay, we are here for a reason, and listen to what I'm trying to say to you, because, yeah, they should be letting go. But the selfishness is why. Why should they let go? They're pulling down in retirement 6 figures. Hello?
Thank you, Cricket. All right, so another question anyone can answer. What challenges have African Americans historically faced in the workforce, and how have they overcome them? What are the consistent patterns? I know we spoke about barriers, but what are they? Jasmine, I see you smiling. Come on, Jasmine.
Let's just start with the most basic one, hiring to begin with. There's always some type of exclusionary category, whether it's intentional or perceived to be intentional or not. We can start with educational requirements. If you, like I said earlier, if you live it, you know it. The educational requirements are often put there just to restrict. There's formal education, which is the college degree and the higher ed degree that I have, and there's the education that life gives you. That often is enough, but for some reason in job requirements, we find ways to whittle people out by using these exclusionary categories. Promotions, there are unequal, inequitable promotion standards, or if they're not even being applied whatsoever. I could go on and on about this for you all, but those are the main 2 that I'm thinking of. Certain categories will always be used against you, and then, well, let's do a comparison of side by side. Let's remove any picture or image of the person, and let's just try and do it on merit, right?
What about diversity training?
Don't do name.
There's the trainer, the bias that the trainer has, the bias that the hiring manager has, the bias that the person who's responsible for promoting the person has. All of these things that come into play, which is why it's important that we address and understand our biases. Each of us has our own ingrained in us. I'll say to you all, I have mine. I'm sure everyone else has theirs. But being aware of them requires that we educate about it and then further analyze and assess, why are these patterns and trends the way they are? Is it because of some action that we've taken or an inaction that we've taken at the same time?
Thank you, Jasmine. Now, you spoke about bias. There's a lot of industries, a lot of businesses, they do implicit bias training for their employees. How have these trainings been received, you think, in the union? Have they been initiated, implemented?
Yes. It depends on the audience. Honestly, it depends on the audience, right? So there are people who really believe that I didn't think I had biases. Let's be honest. I don't have no bias. And then, I see something I don't like, and I got some bias, right? So some people don't really believe that they have bias. Or, people say things like, I don't see color. Guys, behave yourself. Okay. Because, you know what? They don't know. They don't know what that means. They don't know the impact that makes on a person of color. And in their ignorance, they really think they're not being harmful. They really do. They don't really know that they're like, then, you know, you don't see color, you don't see me. And I'm your friend. Oh, how could you say that? They don't know. So some people don't know that they have biases. So we've had many bias trainings in my union, and honestly, it depends on the audience. And sometimes people walk out and they learn a little bit about themselves, and there's other times people walk out and say, I didn't need that damn training, right? So it's an ever, you know, it's a continuing process. But, you know, bias is bias, and we have to try to educate people daily on what it is and how it impacts, just like DEI. People think DEI is about black people. But you're
When
the
the reality
officer.
is that the facts that DEI has had a huge impact more on white women versus people of color. Those are the stats. That's the data. So it's a continual learning, educating process. And to be quite honest, you know, I have my biases. We have an associate minister who uses the term HOT, H-O-T, honest, open, and transparent. So I'm gonna come in hot right now. And yes, if I see a tall, big, white man, bald hair and a beard, it triggers me. It does. And I recognize that, and I'm working through that because that's an honest bias that I have. He may be the nicest person on earth, but that image is somehow in me, has a bias as to someone who's going to do me harm. And so I think an understanding and recognizing our biases helps us to grow and helps me and myself to say, okay, Cricket, take a step back and go from there. Actually, one last thing.
Go ahead.
Our biases and our stereotypes also have the effect of limiting our own perception of who we can be and what we can achieve. So I would just caution everyone to be introspective about what you think you're capable of or what someone's told you you're capable of, and just keep going. Trust in yourself and your abilities rather than the opinions and judgments of others that are most likely rooted in the same biases that they are limiting themselves with as well.
You have a bias?
I probably do. I think I probably thinking more like what exactly it is, but I would say I have biases like just natural, as everyone else has. And what I was thinking during this moment is how biases also lead to microaggressions. And so in that process of when you're noticing your biases, sometimes you'll have to be adherent to when other people tell you, hey, that made me uncomfortable, or, you know, something like that. And you could be thinking, hey, I didn't have any ill will, or that's not what I meant. But also being able to sit back and kind of have some humbleness to you and listen to what that person say, reflect, oh, maybe that was a bias I had. And because microaggressions are kind of a little hard to deal with, like the other person feels something, but it may not be like overt, easy to like point out, but they're telling you how they feel. So also being receptive when you're interacting with other people that they may be outside your community or within, and being receptive to what that person is telling you with your interaction with them as well.
Thank you, Troy. One of the things I want to add to that is that we all have biases, and how we recognize it is by slowing the thought pattern down. How does that work? When you first walk into a room and you see someone, what are your initial thoughts? Slow it down. Pay attention to your thoughts when you see someone. That lets you know where your biases are coming from. You know, it could be, you know, my tie. Oh, why is he wearing that black tie? You know, is it going to make me feel good? You know, pay attention to, like, you know, the microaggressions that come from these biases. I had a student tell me that he went to a local high school and he played soccer. And he was going into the classroom, and one of his teammates said to the hall monitor, check his backpack. So I'm like, why is he telling you, the teacher, the hall monitor, to check the backpack? He was doing a microaggression because the young man was from Jordan, and he's associating that with a bomb, terrorist, All right, so as a soccer player, his fellow teammates playing this, it made him feel some kind of way. So even though the friend thought it was being funny, that's a microaggression. So where did that thought come from? Why would you associate terrorism or a bomb because this person is from Jordan? All right, so so how you have been socialized and conversations that you have with friends, family, who you surround yourself with help shape your perception of the world in which you live. So you have to be careful how you project that, how you present yourself, because you don't know how it's going to impact someone else. You know, so that's why when we're talking about implicit bias when it comes to hiring, and Jasmine covered it really well, you might not like the way the person came in dressed for the interview, but they might be very good at what they do. And so no matter what they say throughout the interview that was on point, the way they came in for that interview, you won't leave that thought alone. And as a result, they don't get the opportunity. But they don't know it because they're just a regular blue-collar worker. Right? So environment also dictates that. Some folks don't know how to transition. No matter where you're going for a job, you always have to present yourself in a way, but if you're doing blue-collar work all the time,
And that's why one of the reasons that the work I do with the statewide pre-apprenticeship program is so important. We use a curriculum that includes an actual module that helps them, the students, participants, and we target, again, women, people of color, justice involved, and the veterans, and help them to actually go through mock interviews when it comes to sitting in front of a foreman, construction worker, et cetera, how to come to that interview dress, how to speak, what not to do, because in some cases, maybe they never had the opportunity to do that. And so part of my work is having those sessions with the participants so they can understand that I'm not telling you you have to change who you are, but you do have to understand that this is a culture. If you want to be a part of this workforce, then this is what you have to do, et cetera. And sometimes those are difficult conversations, but it's what they have to understand so that they can be a part of this workforce, because it is a selfish and aging workforce that we need to get our young folks involved in, because my gosh, and I'm not joking, when you can retire and still make six figures, that to me is obscene. But they're keeping it to themselves, so I want the young folks to be able to participate in that, and so that's why we're pushing this statewide pre-apprenticeship program so hard to get people involved in it.
All right, so we're about at a time, all right? So some closing remarks. So some of the things that we covered is that we need to have more young folks be exposed to the trades. We have to find creative ways of getting the word out. We need to make sure that mentors who are involved with the trades or different career paths are there to assist them, guide them. It's difficult for parents alone to do it. It's difficult for guidance counselors to do it because they're overwhelmed. But the more we can expose our young folks to opportunities that are out there, whether it be through the Bureau of Labor Statistics to talk about, in this area alone, we have a shortage of auto mechanics, HVAC people, plumbers, construction folks. There's a shortage nationally of aviation technicians, people that work on airplanes. No matter what, think about this, well, kind of promoting Hudson Valley right now because we have an aviation technician program, but
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. But imagine having an aviation technician degree certificate approved by the FAA. Not only can you work anywhere in this country, but internationally. That's a career path. There's a shortage because about 50 or 60% of the workforce, aviation technicians, retired during COVID because of the planes weren't flying. So now there's a shortage, so we have to ramp it up now. So very few schools nationally are offering those type of certificates. So we have to find ways to inform our young people what employment opportunities there are out there as well.
Can I do a shameless plug?
Go ahead.
And
Be
then,
shameless.
be shameless about it. I'm going to leave these flyers here, but we have on a website actually that's a combination of Workforce Development Institute, one of the hats I wear, and also with the New York State Building Trades Council, and it's called Apprenticeship Works. And on this website, you can go on, and it tells you how to explore your path. Whether you want to be a teamster, electrician, carpenter, plumber, et cetera, it tells you what skill sets are needed for that and how to figure out how to do that very easily online. And so we're going to leave these for you as well to take a look at. Also, I'm going to leave you some of information about our statewide pre-apprenticeship program. This actually includes information about the modules that they have to take to graduate from this 8 to 11-week program so that they can then become a successful apprentice in all of the different trades that are out there. Because again, unless you know, you don't know. Exactly. So leave that information as well. And Workforce Development Institute information. Again, this is all about information sharing for you all so that you know, and then as my young brother here said, then you can share this with other people as well. Some of you I've seen before, and you're looking at me like, oh, that's that lady who wears that black and white shirt. Yes, I'm a basketball referee as well. And so when I'm out on that court, I'm also telling the students, so what are you going to be doing, after high school, et cetera. So I'm trying to promote it anywhere, everywhere I can, because knowledge is power. We need to get this knowledge out to our students, to our young people, so that they can take us to the next level.
All right, and so one more thing. Remember, speak up and be relentless. Be intentional in crafting policy to address these issues. With that said, we have some time for questions and answers. Questions? Yeah. Well, I saw her hand first. The young lady, please.
Thank you.
The young lady in the back.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I had to write my question down just so I didn't forget any part of it. So my question is, to everyone sitting at the table, as a young Black woman just starting out in the professional field, what methods can I employ to ensure that I'm receiving as much advice and wisdom as I can from the older and more seasoned generation, while simultaneously relaying to the older generation information of my own, especially in the age of technological advancement?
Thank you. I think that's a great question. I think, first of all, what you just did is you asked questions. And be confident in who you are. And don't be afraid to share any information that you might have. I think one of the most important things that we have to do in order to move forward, sometimes as minority women, we don't feel like we should be there, right? What qualifies me to be in the room? You. What's your name? Tiana. Tiana qualifies Tiana to be in the room. Never forget who you are. Always remember that you're Tiana and your destiny is already set. You're going to go wherever you need to go, but you have to make sure that you get there. You take what's for you when you ask those questions, and what ain't for you, leave it to the side and move on to the next. But never stop asking.
I would just add a little something to that. In your communications, be inquisitive, be thoughtful, and be respectful, but also don't fear disagreement. We're not always going to agree about the methodology or the operation of how to get something done. I was looking at a few people in the crowd who I know and know well. We've disagreed, but it's always been respectful, and those different viewpoints allow us to move forward. So there will be some tension, but you just have to keep working through it to grow together.
Okay, this question is for Cricket and Shauna. I'm hoping that the legal arms of your unions are part of the efforts to push back on the present federal trend to decimate the workforce and all of the services that all Americans need. Could you share with us what kind of effort your legal arms are pushing back on the federal agenda to disenfranchise all of us?
Right. As we have heard earlier, with the remarks, I think, from Dr. Carolyn, that we're living in some crazy times right now, and every day there's something else that comes out about an executive order this, banning that, et cetera. And so we're taking it very, very seriously. At New York State Building Construction Trades Council, when that had cyber, we actually have a legal team that keeps track of all these things, and then we're meeting this coming Thursday via Zoom to talk about, okay, what are the pressing ones? Because I shared earlier, I was supposed to speak at an event in Buffalo beginning of March, and because it's federally funded, now it's been postponed. And so that event was for women and young women in the construction field. So we had to figure out how we can make sure that the funding that's coming from federal legally, that's already there, cannot be stopped. So that it is being worked on. I don't have the exacts, but we do have a legal team that's working on this on a everyday, daily basis, because it's been coming at us like they say, drinking out of a fire hydrant. It's been fast and furious, but we recognize that we cannot let it stop. We've already heard that several times. We can't let it stop.
So CSDA is a part of ASME. ASME is our parent union. ASME and AFGE have filed a federal lawsuit against the President of the United States in this fight against the federal workers. CSDA on our statewide level, our political action and our legal department, we are creating what is called a federal POW committee, where it's the federal political action liaisons, where they're working together to not only educate members and leaders about what's going on, but also coming up with ideas from those members and leaders on how to continue to fight and combat what this new administration is trying to put forth.
Hello. I have a question. So the question that I have, I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to frame it, but I'm going to do my best. Do you guys, this is for any of the panelists up there, how important do you think that health and wellness and mental health and wellness and I'm going to use the term healing from societal traumas for the BIPOC community is important when it comes to getting people or women or children prepared for their future, the training workforce, dealing with college, picking the areas in which they're going to go in order to create a life for themselves and possibly generate generational wealth for their future generations to come.
Without your health, you cannot participate and be as active a member of the community, the workforce, your neighbors, any of that. So you have to prioritize your health, especially if you're going to be engaged in this fight that is a generational and a decades-long fight. And that's why community is so important. And one of the things that I think is particularly important too is reading about what's happened in the past. When you start reading about whether it's James Baldwin, Octavia Butler, The Parable of the Sower, which you might want to take a read right now given what's happening in the country, you learn that the struggles that we're facing and the work that we have to do has been done before, just in different ways, and that health and community is integral to moving forward. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Thank you. And I would add that African Americans in labor, as we've heard, today and throughout, have always been the ones in the forefront creating those avenues for things to happen at much cost to them, and so the term that we're using now is not so much self-care, but soul care. You really need to take care of your soul, because this can be, especially what we're dealing with right now, sometimes, to a point where you realize, like, I can't deal with it anymore and throw your hands up, but we need to make sure that we go inside and take care of our souls so that we can be stronger to be out there advocating for those who, not only ourselves, but for those we want to help bring along as well. So yes, and we know, especially in the construction industry, it's one of the highest industries where we have substance abuse. We have suicides in the construction industry, right next to physicians who are also up there, the top 2. So those are 2 industries we definitely need to make sure that, we are looking inside, internally, and taking care of ourselves first.
Okay. Before I hand the mic back over to our lovely moderator, Ainsley, I have one final question for Troy, actually. So, of course, you are a student. You know the life that students are going through. I myself was once in your position. I'm interested to know, how can African American students and other young professionals leverage internships, certifications, and professional networks to advance in industries where they are underrepresented?
Thank you. I love that question. That's something I work towards basically every day on campus, being a student leader at the National Association of Black Accountants on our campus, trying to really help a diversity of students really engage with professional development. I think the main point that it starts at is being able to network and kind of put yourself out there, because in college it's so easy to just stay in your dorm room or even like network with students, but have the ability to also talk with professionals. That was something I remember it took me a while, especially being a freshman. Like, I don't want to talk to recruiters. Like, what am I going to say? I never interacted with adults in kind of that manner, learning how to talk in those spaces, and you don't know what to do in those situations until you actually do it. So I would say the earlier the better to get into those circles, and just if you just got to observe. I know like the first time I really interacted in a space with recruiting or just also mentorship, there was some awkward conversations, because it's something that you learn as a young person trying to be a professional. I would say sorry. I would say that also striving for excellence in the same way will help you along that path when you're being exposed to other people. They see your work ethic, they see how serious you're taking stuff and your initiative. So also when you put yourself in those areas, to also be working on yourself and your goals, and doing the best you can in school, and being a leader and going towards directions that are important to yourself. For me, that has led me to get internships through people I know. I always tell students, like, it's good to apply, but I've been blessed to be able to get opportunities through people, and don't lose that sight. And today is really hard to apply to certain positions because it's AI checking your resume, and then you get denied instantly, and students like, I applied like 400 times, and it's really not even a person looking at your profile. And so I think that helps in that process of getting internships. And when I had my first internship, I think 2 summers ago, at KeyBank, one thing that I learned is that it doesn't stop even when you get to your internship space, and where you are also networking with the people who are already there. And so just keep on having advocates and being excellent in that space. With certifications, that's maybe specific to your industry. Finance is really certification heavy. As I mentioned earlier, I had some mentors in the space who were already in finance and a person of color and came from my college, and having those people that have similarities to you may be easier to reach out or cold message on LinkedIn or whatever it is. And they told me, hey, this is a certification you'll need. And over the summer, I was able to get my SIE certification, which most people don't take until after college. But I had the advice from someone like, get this done early. Like, while you have time in the summer, don't wait till after you graduate. And so taking advantage of, I guess, certification/education, like reading, outside of when you're done with the semester. So if you're really interested in a field like marketing, taking the initiative to read books on marketing outside of your course. And so I think leveraging all these things, really the nucleus being your network, but in self-excellence is the main 2 points I would stress for young professionals.
Okay. I'd like to thank our panelists for participating today. Thank the county exec and the county legislatures for giving us this opportunity. And enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
I just want to give just final thank you to everyone for being here today. This was very informative. I don't care who you were listening to. This has been very informative. I learned a lot listening to you all today, and I'm going to do my part to take the next step to make sure that I'm following through on what I said and what I learned today. So thank you all so very much.
Thank you.